Leave your comments on the Ask Reddit sub, and I'll read your answers on the next episode of LWIAR. What is something that was normal in medieval times but would be weird today? This video by Historia Civilis covers animal trials pretty well. U2.be. I live not far from where this occurred and I've never read the details cause I know I'd cry. There was a pope in 897 who hated his predecessor so much he had his dead body taken from its grave and put to trial just so he could talk crap about him in front of everyone. The history of the church is honestly a great read for people interested. There's some frankly bizarre stuff going on there. Civil death is the modern version of this and it's still practiced in Rhode Island. I guess I'll add that civil death in Rhode Island includes the loss of ability to possess or bequeath property, get married, or even to bring a claim in court. Civilly dead attacked or molested in prison have no capacity to sue because they are dead. It is not clear whether a defendant could legally be convicted for murder of a person already legally dead, and there's no case law to that effect, so it would have to be decided by the court. The Supreme Court has upheld the statute's bar on bringing claims in court several times in recent years, despite our Constitution featuring a provision absent from the U.S. Constitution, which protects the right to bring claims in court. In case anyone is interested, this is the definition of civil death as per the RIACLU. The law, enacted in 1909, declares people sentenced to life imprisonment to be dead for virtually all legal purposes, including those relating to matrimony and holding property, even though most are eligible for parole after 20 years. Quote, it came under fire as late as 2 years ago, after inmate Dana Gallup was denied his right to sue another inmate after an assault because Gallup was legally dead. Editing to add, the Rhode Island law only makes you dead in the eyes of civil law, not criminal law. This law makes it hard for inmates current and former, because some are eligible for parole after 20 years. But it's not settled whether they would be then civilly alive again. Seek recognition in civil courts. This can make it difficult or impossible to get married, sign contracts, or pursue civil litigation. This last part is especially important because part of the civil protection that may no longer be granted to those civilly dead are constitutional rights, like against inhumane torture or treatment. Of course, there's very little precedent to make this clear because affected inmates are literally not recognized by the court who would settle this issue, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined this year to hear a case from RE on this matter. A lot of folks really seem keen on the idea that if you are in jail, you should have no rights, and you should be being punished. One of the reasons our recidivism rate is so high is because our prisons, where an inmate should have access to counseling, job training and other classes to improve their life when they are out, are lacking. I don't think I'd mind being an outlaw. Sure, I could get killed, but doesn't that also mean I could operate outside the laws with no consequences? Until I'm killed, obviously. That's pretty much true today. You operate outside the law until you get shot or arrested. The only difference is that now, the only people who can legally shoot you are the cops. Yeah, this basically, I couldn't be fricked to respond to all the messages, but yes, this was my point. But the police would also be after you, so I'm not sure what your point is. The groom of the stool. And it wasn't just a respected position, it was a very powerful one. I'm a nurse's aide, should this apply to me as well? I wipe more than one butt, so that means more respect and power. Right. Well, you really gotta trust someone if you're gonna have them wipe your butt and they haven't betrayed you. Only my true homie wiped my butt. Self-cleaning toilet paper. Sumptuary laws covered a whole host of things. Beyond clothing, it'd also limit, for example, the number of guests you could have at a wedding. Both from Latin sumptus, meaning expense. The sumptuary laws were also designed to limit extravagant spending. The king one actually kind of makes sense, but I feel like there are a lot of people today who would respond with something like, but that's gay. Two dudes sleeping in a bed 6 feet apart cause they're not gay. Actually, it wasn't a thing for the majority of history. Only relatively recently, the last 150 years or so, with separate bedrooms. The hard way. Serious question. What did a couple do when they had a family in a one-room house and wanted to have sex? I came to the realization that my parents probably banged every Sunday after church when me and my brother and sister were little. I've obviously never brought it up because I don't want confirmation of it, lol. But every Sunday after church we would get a ride with my grandparents to their house, and my nan would make us lunch and we would hang out with my grandfather playing with Lincoln logs or dicking around in his garage workshop with him. My parents would go home to change out of their church clothes, and it would usually be an hour or so until they got to my grandparents for lunch. Their house and my grandparents' house are 5 minutes apart, and the church is literally halfway between the two houses. Fight instead of divorce. Why waste time on courts and child support? In medieval Germany, if a husband and wife reached a dead end on some important issue, they entered the ring. The rules, of course, equalized the forces of men and women. In the ring, the man was in a hole. One hand was tied behind his back, so that he could strike with only one hand, and the wife was given a bag of coal, with which she struck. Whoever wins the fight, inflicts serious injury, or the defeated one asks for mercy, is, therefore, right in the dispute. Gives people a whole lot more incentive to sort out their grievances in private. I love that to make things equal they made absolutely everything unequal. I like to imagine this being the end result of a long period of experimentation and balancing. Alright, the husband win rate is still 60%. So let's make the hole 6 inches deeper and give the wife another rock. Oh, now the wife is winning 60% of the time, better give the husband an additional club to balance things out and add a rules patch where she loses a rock if she hits him while he's touching the edge. Could you build a temporary platform of sorts with a hole in the floor to reenact this? You with all practical solutions. Going to sleep as soon as it gets dark. Waking up and hanging out with your family for a few hours in the middle of the night. And going back to bed until sunrise. I would like to know more. Before the Industrial Revolution, sleeping habits were different. It changed because of street lights, working hours and such modern things, into a single 8-hour cycle. But in earlier times, you would go to bed at sundown, sleep 4 to 5 hours, wake up and maybe frick your spouse or go shoot the crap with your neighbor for a couple hours. Things that didn't require light, then go back to sleep for 3 to 4 more hours. There is some speculation that this sleeping pattern is more natural, and that this may have something to do with why some people have problems with insomnia. Note that speculation. Before alarm clocks were commonplace, the factories used to employ people to walk up and down the streets knocking on the windows of the shift workers to wake them up. They used a long pole with some wire on the end. A barber doing surgery. And we still have a representative of bloody rags outside of every shop. It was more like a surgeon was also doing haircuts. The best part is your hair would look spot on for the funeral. Donating your urine to a dyer. Literally pissing away money. Wearing a codpiece. When syphilis-inspired fashion. How do? On a side note, Henry VIII's armor was so intricate it was studied by engineers working on NASA's spacesuits. I'm not sure if I'm more impressed by the metalwork and engineering talent or the size of the knob pocket. That leads to my favorite trivia of weddings, where the best man was not necessarily your best mate, but the best duelist you knew, in order to help fight over the bride at a wedding. This was a love potion recipe from the 10th century. A woman will lay a cloth on the ground and cover it in grain. She will then strip her clothing off and cover her body in honey. After that, she will roll around on the cloth and try to get covered in grain. Afterwards, she will get up and take the grain stuck to her body over to the mill and ground it into flour. She will then use that flour to bake bread and give it to her husband to eat. There was also another love potion that involves a wife presenting her naked butt to her husband, who then rolls red dough on it that will be turned into bread. Edit. Did not expect this to blow up. I read this in an excerpt of Burchard of Worms' book The Corrector, or alternatively, The Physician. He was a bishop in southern Germany who wrote books on canon law. Book 19. This one covered a lot of popular pagan rituals. In modern times, love potions still exist in the form of camp girls selling their bath water to gamers. You have insulted my honor. I challenge you to a duel. I accept. Wearing cloaks. I don't understand why cloaks are amazing. We should bring cloaks back. I think it's because they're inefficient and our society values efficiency. They're yards and yards of cloth, which makes them heavy and kind of expensive if you're getting a good quality one. They get caught on things and get dirty far more easily than, say, wearing a coat and a hat. In addition, our society likes seeing people's body shape and lines. Cloaks obscure body shape, meaning that they look less attractive to people in general. Trench coats fell out of fashion because of that weird kid in everyone's middle school. AskReddit. Yes, Columbine. I didn't mention it because I wasn't alive then and trench coats were weird in my middle school. Even without kids thinking about Columbine. Also, it makes my joke less funny to mention it. Not more funny. More like not having enough money to be able to afford a sword. A decent sword costs several months' wages for the average man. Pissing and crapping in a bowl and just tossing your crap out the window in the morning. Boiling fruit before you eat it. People in medieval times thought raw fruit was bad for you, so they boiled their fruit before eating it. Boiling removes vitamin C from fruit. This habit is thought to be one of the reasons why there were high rates of scurvy in medieval times. One of the symptoms of scurvy is hallucinations. Scurvy-induced hallucinations are thought to be one of the reasons why so many people in medieval times were documented to have had religious visions. LPT, if you want to see Jesus, stop ingesting vitamin C. Possible side effects include loss of teeth, bleeding gums, aforementioned hallucinations, suppression of immune system, and death. My parents had tapestries hanging in our house growing up. To add to the medievalness, in order to get the mounts to hang them, my dad went to the Renaissance fair, spoke to a blacksmith about making the mounts. Then a year or two later when they came back through was able to actually get them. Tapestries had the added benefit of acting as insulation. Turkey is cat crazy. Istanbul is famous for having tons of street cats that are treated with respect. Lots of people leave water bowls out for cats, and on cold or rainy nights they'll leave cat shelters out with straw, blankets, or towels in boxes. Neighborhood cats often get named and taken in for medical care, and there are statues of a bunch of especially famous ones. There's good documentary about Istanbul's cats called KD, Cat Kitty. They became venerated for eliminating rats. There was a saying for 500 years that went like, "Welcome cats in your street or rats in your home." In Rome, once a year Jews were made to run through the streets naked. www.google.com. Did they hire Borat to spectate the running of the Jew? In fact, it was normal to pick your nose back then. There are pieces falling off of me. I'm not half the man I used to be. Oh, why did I get leprosy? Never traveling more than a few miles outside of your village or town. Seeing someone in stocks on a stage in public. Having multiple children, over many years, while living in a one-room dwelling. Later, I had answered the question assuming Op was talking about the socio-economic and cultural experience that the time period was, and not the time all over the world. My bad. Brushing your teeth with a stick. The stereotype that girls were the hornier sex. On second thought. Thanks for watching LWIAR. The best of recent r/AskReddit submissions and comments. If you like this video, check out LWIAR too. And don't forget to like and subscribe.